But you're going for it.
So we have the group reports, and then we'll wrap up, and the question about getting some community input into your
I can start. Can we, I mean, do we
I think if you're
wanna?
ready to start, let's
Yeah,
do
I'll
it.
start. I didn't realize, I didn't know if we were eating.
I was a little, I didn't want to intrude on anybody's lunch too much, but if you want to get us started.
Okay.
We all have kids, we're used to being interrupted.
Okay.
I don't like my limit though. Yeah, I can't do three. Right.
All right, so I'm up to group three. Group three was Richard Giamona, Commissioner Giamona, Commissioner Holstead, Commissioner Grass, and Commissioner Henry. On the side, where we came out broadly was stay at 20 people with an eye to grow as the city grows plans across the city as the more neighborhood associations open up. The rationale for this is making sure no district is underrepresented when one commissioner can't attend a meeting. We need at least two people to be the voice and ears of the community to collaborate with the commission and the city. Two people broadens the list of community contacts and networks. Each person knows different people. Diversity is a key component. It's very difficult with only 10 people. And 20 people ensures adequate staffing for any potential ad hoc committees. On the caucus, our thinking was to keep the caucus process. I believe our strong opinion, yes, unanimous and strong opinion, is to keep the caucus process. The value of the caucus is that neighborhood associations and leadership groups within the district nominate individuals who represent the voice and values of unique neighborhoods. To relieve the workload burden and reduce the city's costs to run the caucus process, the commission itself, in partnership and under the guidance of the legal and administrative guidance of the city of San Jose, should take over management of the caucus process. This includes updating guidelines, scheduling meetings, recruiting and educating candidates, and facilitate the voting process on the day of the caucus. One commissioner strongly believed that United Neighborhood should be the platform for the caucus, serving as a neutral moderator and facilitator of the process, serving as an experienced neutral moderator and facilitator of the process. The Neighborhoods Commission is purpose. While the existing purpose on the city website is below, I'm going to read what's on our website. The Neighborhoods Commission studies, our purpose is to study, review, and evaluate, and make recommendations to the City Council regarding issues, policies, and programs affecting the quality of life in San Jose neighborhoods, focusing on neighborhood safety, transportation, code enforcement. We advise and make recommendations to the City Council regarding budget. While the existing purpose on the city website is below, we see our primary value is serving as the voice and ears of the community. And that's something John Semanek has been been very articulate about. Eliciting feedback and serving as a conduit between the city and the neighborhoods. This approach is evident on the Commission's work on illegal dumping and fireworks, where the city commended the Commission on its ability to credibly amplify city solutions back to the neighborhoods, and likewise, inform where the existing city efforts could be improved. It's critical, so within our purpose, we have a critical need to have bylaws. We need a mechanism to sit down with the city prior to proceeding with new projects. We need to know when we were in and out of our swim lanes. One concern is ensuring the commission work product and recommendations actually reach the council's desk. The commission does not want to be a check-the-box commission. We don't want any fake requests for input, nor do we want to provide any fake output. We want to work on things that really matter to the city.
Questions for the group? Reactions, responses?
I really like that last point.
Yeah.
Somebody talked about earlier, listening to book reports.
Yeah.
I think we want to be a commission of duty.
Pete, do you mind just giving a little bit of what that means, the Joel Forwell book report?
The commission really, for most of its time, would come to a room unprepared, not even have the agenda distributed ahead of time, would sit through a series of presentations by various city departments, nod sagely as if we understood, give some opinion on what it was. And the clicker that we all agree on was that a couple of years ago, Airbnb, somebody made a presentation about the Airbnb process. the decision had already been made by council before they approached us. So we sat through a presentation and they asked our opinion, and it was not gonna be of any value whatsoever. So make sure that we add content and value, and as David said, do something.
Yeah, to do something, and then I heard the proactive, right, instead of just receiving information and providing.
Yes.
Good, yes.
Yeah, I liked your comment about the ability for the commission to grow. Was there any threshold that you had in mind where, like if it went to 1.2 million, like we're at 1 million now, if it went to 1.2 million, then it'd grow by one more or anything like that?
We talked about it, I can put it in there. No, we didn't want to be prescriptive about it, but I think it's relevant.
I just,
We didn't wanna put, say, 50,000 for you, and that's the limit.
Right.
right,
You know,
yeah,
1,000 per person. It's just that the ballpark, so we go in a direction of not overwhelming each commissioner.
right, right. I agree.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I'll add something in there, that flavor.
My only comment is that I like that a lot of times we passionately invest our time. I wouldn't want to limit us by not having opportunities to just issue recommendation without having to invest time. Just getting the information in advance, having information in the meeting, and then deciding. So I just think we should have that flexibility.
I agree with that 100%, Juan, but it's that information in advance.
Yeah.
So that we walk in with some knowledge about what we're talking about, we're not just on the fly.
Right.
So that's so is that like an operational efficiency type?
Yeah.
If it's in that bucket of interacting and collaborating with the city means preparation in advance. So
Yeah.
we can just come to a meeting and decide on something.
That's a good segue to our group.
Yeah.
Happens to be, how
Well,
perfect,
and
well
just
done.
before you go, let me just say, I think that was great the way Nicole had done the notes. Who was in the group, right? So we had a document of who's in the group. And then the commission the group felt
Yeah.
really strongly about this, one commissioner, and then that we get a sense about what was happening in the group. And again, we don't need to have consensus. If you have an alternative opinion, I know it's hard sometimes when everybody's moving in one direction, step up and voice that opinion.
It's
That's
not hard,
okay,
it's
right?
not
No-
hard for this group.
Yeah, it's good.
No whims in this
No
Like,
shy
what are you
people.
talking about?
No shy people, that's great. They're
But
good.
just to piggyback on that, in order for us, like, for example, that light thing that came about in the last meeting, they had already made a decision, or they didn't even consider it, and not only that, I'm sure that the community would also like to know that we were gonna be listening to a presentation, and our due diligence to our neighborhoods is to let them know that if they also wanna voice their opinion, they have that platform to do so. And we're not transparent. It's not coming to us that it looks like we purposely, or it could be misconstrued as if we purposely did not let them
Right.
know, and I wanna be as transparent as possible.
Yeah, that's good, that's a good point. Okay, Juan,
Here we
group
go.
number 2.
We're group number 2, and the commissioners in our group were Estrada, Navarro, Sandoval, and our input was unanimous except for the topic of homelessness, and I will get to that. So about our purpose, we believe that the existing purpose focus scope is appropriate as long as the commission is efficient and effective. One exception is the topic of homelessness. 2 commissioners believe that homelessness needs to be addressed, but our commission is not the appropriate forum. 2 possibilities suggested were the city could create a task force in collaboration with the county, or the city could create a separate commission focused on homelessness. 3 commissioners believe that homelessness is within our focus. So next, size. We believe that 2 commissioners per council district is the minimum that is appropriate as long as the commission follows processes that allow the commission and city staff to operate efficiently and effectively. And meaning that if we don't, then yeah, we would need less. But if we are effective, maybe we can have more. And what do we have under that? Facilitate the ability to adequately, the size facilitates the ability to adequately represent our population and diversity of residents. It facilitates the ability to collaborate with neighborhood associations. It facilitates the ability for each council to be represented at commission meetings consistently. And a note that efficiency is dependent upon effective use of ad hoc committees. And we're not just talking about the meetings, but the ad hocs have to be efficient as well. On the topic of caucus process, The current process is working with the understanding that the number of candidates for elections depends on outreach. Additional outreach would be preferred to ensure adequate representation. The current process includes commissioners supporting all the caucus-related tasks. We had some possible options. One is the use of election runner-ups to fill vacancies. And the second is commissioners would be responsible for outreach to neighborhoods to recruit candidates. And again, that's where we have insufficient candidates. The last one, work plan lessons learned. You know what, before I go to this, let me say that we were unanimous, but there was discussion. Don't think there wasn't. Let's see, what did we learn? Issue, the need for a better process to fully communicate work plan accomplishments and recommendations to the council so they can be considered. And our suggestion was a brief work plan status report, quote, report card to be submitted to the council on a recurring basis and to be acknowledged by the council, so we know that they read it. Second issue is enhanced ad hoc committee ability. And we'll say that better, but for example, they sometimes may not be able, for example, ad hoc committees may sometimes not be able to complete the project within the allocated sunset requirements. And it looks like we had 3 suggestions. One was develop guidelines that may enhance ad hoc committee efficiency and effectiveness. Second one is ensure that work plan items do not require excessive city manager office or other city department staff support. Number 3 is develop guidelines for deliverables of committee work. And a possible issue is we think the commission should revisit the process by which commissioners communicate, by which individual commissioners communicate with city departments. So that's it. That's what we got.
Reactions, questions for group number 2?
I have one.
Just a lot of overlap.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm sorry, the suggestion about UNSCC facilitating the caucuses, I can see where that would be valuable. UNSCC could be paid to do that, right? And I say paid, you know what, I am a board member of United Neighborhoods of Santa Clara County, and I know that the city pays United Neighborhoods to handle cap grants. And this is my opinion, not the opinion of UNSCC. Right, I'm sorry, I feared I was crossing a line there. It just seems like something that they could handle, but might need resources to handle. So I throw that out there.
And you're okay with someone? I mean, they're gonna send this, but it's,
Yeah,
you know.
that makes sense.
Good, good. Excellent, yeah.
So just a quick question too, 2 years ago when we were getting ready to do the caucus process with the current crowd, we actually had an ad hoc committee and we actually put together a whole layout of how to do this without city time, and so that actually exists as a document out there. And it did mean there was more work for all of us commissioners, but it's stuff we're doing already, going out into the community.
Right.
So, I mean, I think it does work. It's just, it didn't happen last time. The city just did it. But if we went back to that, it actually is a program I think that could work for us.
That was adopted by the council.
It was adopted by the council.
So
and
that was
there
an
approval.
approved process.
Right,
That
it just
we,
didn't
that we
happen.
developed within the neighborhood commission.
Exactly.
Sorry, how long ago was that?
2 years ago for the last caucus process.
It was
And
accepted
so
March 30th of last year.
And so you did use it for the caucus process or did not?
They did not.
And any reason why? I mean, if it was approved by council, it was formally approved by council?
We don't, I don't know why.
It was formally approved by the commission.
No, it went to council also.
It went to the council.
There was an election for District 5.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so resurrecting that is a possibility. I mean, we've got something on.
Yeah, we have an
on the
active
books already,
document.
right? We have to go back and start from scratch.
We recognized,
So
the
I
commission
maybe-
recognized the need for that and acted on it and
Okay.
provided a recommendation and it was passed on and approved by the city.
It's the same caucus process. It was just, we as the commission did more work versus actually having city staff done.
Oh, okay.
And so what happened is city staff took over and did all the time that we as the commission would have done. of running the aqua caucuses and stuff.
One of the goals was to reduce city staff involvement.
Right.
That was one of the goals.
So that document doesn't exist out there.
Go ahead, Pete.
I'd like to comment on Lon's theme today, and I think it's very, very good about efficiency and getting better at the way that we do this. This is the first year we've tried with serious ad hocs and done some things, and there were a lot of mistakes made. I'll be the first to admit that. But I really like that notion that we have some guidelines and some standards and kind of a cookbook that ad hocs can adopt
Right.
and follow, so we're not kind of making it up on the fly. But that efficiency is a very, very important concept that we should be.
And just to give the group credit, because what I presented was our group's.
Okay.
project.
Yeah, very good, excellent. Okay, so then we're on to group number one.
Group number one. All right, so we consisted of Commissioner Martin, Hernandez, Carter, Wilkins, Fleming, myself. Going on to purpose, our overall opinion was, we take the pulse of the neighborhood and we report it to council. Unite residents and encourage them to attend meetings, whether that's neighborhood association meetings or commission meetings or city council meetings, whatever it is. Facilitate information exchange between the council and the neighborhoods, as well as exchange information between the city departments and the neighborhoods. Educate our districts to understand current events and processes occurring at City Hall that affect them, including this would be a recommendation, including a short paragraph from each commissioner about their district that could be included in the chair's monthly report, so that way we could address the needs and concerns of each district and not take up meeting time, going into that efficiency. Going into the size, we all felt that we needed to stay at 20, and we felt there was room to grow to 30, which would help improve recruitment of diversity, get more diverse commissioners within this commission, and ensure that we have enough commissioners to attend each neighborhood association meeting each month. We also felt that if we do increase, or even if we stay the same, which we hope we do, the process on discussion of items needs to be addressed so that we are more efficient. Going around the horn, going around the room, each person having a comment works really well, but we need to make sure that people don't stand on a soapbox and speak about issues. Like I have garbage on this street in this one particular place. That needs to stop. We're all commissioners, we're all activists, but we don't need to speak just to speak. If we speak, we need to make sure it's on point, on target, and very precise. So that was something important. And then for the caucus, we felt that the caucus process is great. We need to keep that process. It's very important for us. We felt the city staff time, since that seems to be an issue, could be substituted with United Neighborhoods or getting the commissioners out there to do the work, as Terry just mentioned. So that's us in a nutshell.
Great. Questions, comments, reactions to group one? Go ahead, Pete.
No, I just have a reminder based on our conversation. Soma, is it possible at our next meeting if you can bring us, when you bring us flyers about the dumping, where they can pick up illegal dumping and fireworks and stuff like that? Because we are a center of, we disseminate information from here to our neighborhoods. I was sharing with my colleagues that I carry those cards for the illegal dumping where you can call.
Oh, the plastic ones?
Yeah, and I always run out, and I have to go back to City Hall and get more. So if you have them at hand, I think most of us could use them. And when we're at meetings, I always end up having a few of them and letting people know about that. So when we have city programs like that, if you could let us know how we can obtain that literature so we can share it at the meetings that we go to. So that was just a reminder.
Excellent. Very good.
Could I amplify a little bit on that, Dee? I think that's a great idea, and Zula's report on the Immigrant Affairs Office really got me thinking about this. I think there ought to be a standing item in the agenda where all the city departments bring in illegal dumping things, the Vision Zero, all of their projects, and a little written report, which is given to us, and then we disseminate out. So it's just something we do every month, is assist that communication, and that there's a specific ask. Find out what's going on in our districts and bring that information out and filter it back in as necessary. But if we make that a standard thing every single meeting, it doesn't have to take a lot of time, but sort of start up, or what I'm trying to milk that communications path.
And that helps with that educational point that I just made, that our group made. That'd be perfect.
Very good. So let's go to Robert and then Nicole.
Yes. Dumping. This is what we do in our area. We provide, our council member provides dumping once a year that before it was Madison Wind, now it's Tam Wind, and this is what we do in our area. And in fact, we're having a dumping program event on May 6th. The city got the school to provide us the school parking lot where the dumpsters will be placed. That's what we do every year. And have safety. And they have to have, those that are come in our area to dump, have to have a slip like that. We deliver one to every household in our area. We have 2,018 households in our area. So this is what we do annually.
Very good. Nicole?
I just want to speak to Pete's point about that report from each department, and to John's point about efficiency, and to the city's need to manage workload. So as an example, and not to get in the weeds here, but for new ideas like that, think of ways to operationalize it efficiently. As an example, we're not asking the city to write up an additional report. Just use something you've already produced in like your weekly action plan to your boss. Like, just cut and paste it. Like that it's not some big fancy thing, but that the information gets out. Maybe eventually it'll be some beautiful website and it'll be a newsletter, whatever. But right now, I think the imperative as the city grows so quickly, it's all moving under our feet right now. It's happening right now. And I feel like waiting until things are perfect is it puts us nowhere. So just like, let's use what we have. Let's get information into people's hands. If it's not perfect, it's not perfect, but let's go.
And so as I'm understanding this, say Department of Transportation has something and they really want the community to know about it. Oh, we've got a venue, we've got a forum for communicating this out as a neighborhoods commission. Here, let's cut and paste this paragraph and get that in. Okay,
And as an example, as a forcing function, as like, I want those guys to come back in a year and be like, you guys, I didn't get a single call from a single resident. What are you doing? I would rather them be mad at us than the council, honestly. Does that make sense?
No, absolutely.
So.
Good. Okay, anything else from any of the group reports that we heard? Great, excellent. Before we move towards wrap up, you have your handout? You want to?
I'm sure I handed it out mostly to everybody.
Good. Just make sure everybody has a copy.
But, Jerry didn't get one.
Can I respectfully request that you hand it out, but if we just talked about everybody's proposed solutions, that we not make this an agenda?
Yeah, no, it's not an agenda item. He just has information that he wants to share with the commission.
And I value it, but, yeah,
What's that?
I just want, I value what you're handing out, but I just didn't want to.
I understand where you're going, and it's just that I have already, that's what I was trying to ask him when you interrupted me earlier, because I was trying to communicate and get it when it should be handed out. And I didn't know when I could do that, so that's what I was trying to do. Okay? I already gave you one. Oh, okay. That was the one I gave you earlier. All right.
I will point out
Okay.
that this is in
I've got one, Trey.
conflict with the reports that we've done. So, yeah. So take it as a grain of salt.
Perfect. And so as a facilitator here, what I wanted to do was, I wanted to make sure the groups had a chance to weigh in on the items. That's what we're really focused in on. Great that we have some additional information, but I didn't want that to shape what happened in the groups, because it should have come up organically.
I know that you already reported what we spoke about, but one of the things in the caucus that inadvertently probably
I'm gonna edit it.
is that people that are city council, city commissioners for the neighborhood, for example, he's gonna be retiring out. If we can have the runners up take the place of that person if they're still interested in being neighborhood commissioners. So I don't think he really mentioned that. So if it's a runner up, then that position becomes vacant instead of us having a caucus, or instead of the council appointing someone because of the reason that we have a caucus, that the runner up, if they're still interested in being a neighborhood commissioner, that position automatically opens to them.
So from an operational efficiency standpoint, that would go to Gary. Like if we want to actually operationalize that and think about that, that goes into Gary's process.
And to make sure I got it right, what I had was use of election runner-ups to fill vacancies, and what I added after a report was that occur prior to next election. Because obviously you wouldn't use them for, instead of an election.
Yeah.
Okay, Okay, good. I don't wanna be efficient.
I just want to say, you know, I got this information, it might be totally accurate, but there's no attribution on here, and I don't know what the source was, or.
The source is that I was giving a solution to a problem
Okay.
that was submitted. That was my solution.
My comment is, there's no attribution on this, I don't know it came from you.
Oh, okay, I can send it to you.
That's all I'm saying.
I can send it directly to you.
Well,
That's why I wanted
no,
to
you
just.
can't. It has to go through. But anyway, just put your
No,
name.
no, I can do it.
It needs to
if
have a
I
name.
send
Send
it
it to him.
All I'm saying, it needs to have a
That's
name,
part of the other notes, I'll collect it as part of the other notes.
just a name and the source, that's all I'm saying. Because I picked this up 2 days from now, I don't know where it came from.
Very good. Jonathan?
Yeah, so we have about 15 minutes left here, and I still, in all this process, haven't heard what brought on the memo. You know, I heard that we had a lot of emails, but I mean, could you explain that? You know, how that all came up? That would be awesome.
Which memo? The Rocha?
The Rocha memo. Yeah, I mean, we've just done this whole exercise, came up with, you know, what we want to see the commission do, but we don't know what brought it on. You know, it's like we attack the solution without identifying the problem first. So I'd really like to know what the problem
We need to hear
was.
from him though, right?
Yeah, it was written
She
in
didn't
the
write
office.
it.
I didn't see the memo before it was released, but I think it was a number of things, not only from staff, from community equipment and other things. And Councilmember Rocha has been a part of this for a while, so I think it was a number of things that led up to it.
My comment is, yeah, he's always shown to be supportive of the commission. What I read in the memo, and thank you for bringing it up, because I think in the memo, what I read was that he had been given some feedback from some individual commissioners. And I would just say, hey, commissioners, if you have feedback for the council member, let's talk about it at a meeting. Let's make sure that the feedback he's given comes from the group, because I'm not sure who talked to him and what they said to him and why he came to that conclusion.
I think it could have been that the assumption he made was that there's a few commissioners don't feel like they can talk about it during the meetings, and that's why retreat would be a better way. But, I mean, the prior, as far as I'm concerned, the new policy 0-4 is trying to make all commissions very consistent in the way that they operate. And, you know, that was just passed earlier in the year. And so for this commission, which is very unique, and it's just much more of an advocacy group, it doesn't really fit within the norms of the current bylaws and the policy 0-4, but somehow it has to conform. So finding a middle ground where there's administrative feasibility and reasonability, that's the word, reasonable, is what I know that Norberto's looking for, something in the middle. And Councilmember Rocha probably used that as an opportunity to do that here, now, before the next fiscal year.
Didn't we
And
comment
in
on
light of
04?
policy 0-4.
I
Right
thought
now, it
04
does not
came-
follow 0-4.
Came through, I thought we commented on that.
As a commission?
Yeah, I thought we did.
Go ahead, Dee.
I just have a comment on that, and you know, it's a good thing you brought up kind of like the elephant in the room. You know, it's
That's
uncomfortable.
an assumption.
Yeah, from my point of view, I'm donating my time. My time is very valuable, which other things I could be doing. So when I saw the video of the council members discussing that, like Olivia said, it was very disheartening, and I felt like they really dehumanized this. You know, I know my council member, I feel appreciated from the time that Juan and I guys in the community. I would have thought that, not that they have to like completely just be thankful for us, but, you know, you're always hearing council members and politicians talk about wanting people to be involved, wanting people to donate their time to their district. You know, I think of us as part of the team for District 5. You know, we don't have to agree with everything that our council member or vice mayor does and says. You know, and we feel comfortable enough to voice that to her. But that day when I saw that video, you know, I did feel disappointed that despite all of the hours, I mean, I watched some of these gentlemen in the ad hoc committees. They put their heart and soul into, you know, homelessness, you know, illegal fireworks, living in a golf course. I would think there would have to be a higher level of gratitude coming from our city council. You know, and I was just saying, you're welcome to us. It's like, you know, they're not even thanking us. I feel like they're not even thanking us. I'm not doing it because I want the thank you or the appreciation or the approval, but nevertheless, the fact that we don't have any of that, is disheartening, but it doesn't discourage me from participating. It makes me want to do the opposite. You know, it makes me want to, okay, you don't think we're valuable? You know, and I don't think my council member does that or says that, but, you know, if others do. So I'm glad that we brought it up, and, you know, that is very much the sentiment. I don't know if they were aware that, you know, maybe sometimes during a meeting, you forget that you're dealing with the time, the volunteer time with people. So I don't know that they knew how much dehumanized we felt when we listened to them talk to us as something abstract that they were not grateful for.
Okay, very good. Let's take a couple more
Excellent.
comments, and we do have a wrap-up question. Okay,
Getting back to the memo, I think it's important I read this directly from Roche's. I'm going to read analysis first, just a sentence. In my capacity as council liaison to the Neighborhoods Commission, I've heard comments, inputs, concerns over the past year from members of the Neighborhoods Commission about the Commission's ability to pursue meaningful work. His opening sentence. As Rules Committee, we're asking for enactment of the following. Direct staff to bring forward recommendations how to structure and scope of the Neighborhoods Commission be revised or clarified to promote the success of the Commission, but also ensure that staff resources are used to support the Commission efficiently. I think we have to put that in context, because I think those are two important sentences of that memo.
That's just where I was going. I was actually reviewing the memo, and I think those, for me, were the two key sentences to answer the question. Staff capacity and the concerns that he's heard from some commissioners. Go ahead, Paul.
I just, sort of capitalizing on Mimi, we're all gonna keep doing this anyway. We're community leaders, it's in our blood, it's literally in our blood, in Olivia's blood. We grew up under the table in community meetings. Like, you know, as children, this is what we did, it's what we're gonna continue to do. And it's, I'll speak for myself, it's really a privilege to serve the city in this capacity. And if that's not an opportunity, I'll be serving in a different capacity. And I would prefer to serve it under this banner. And I'm really hoping that the city takes this feedback and that we don't get another surprise like that Rules Committee meeting that was disheartening. And really was a disappointment. Thank you.
Very good.
I think the takeaway from that, and I agree with you, Mimi, and that emphasized that was the Rules Committee. It wasn't the whole council, it wasn't, it was a certain subset of the people. It becomes incumbent on us to prove our value.
Right.
So I take the criticism, that's fine, but our problem is that nobody knows we're out here doing things. So our job coming out of that ought to be to demonstrate that we really do add value, and therefore don't make that mistake again, you guys. Be educated about what we're doing.
Yeah, that I heard Mimi say, "We'll show you."
Yes.
How valuable we are.
Yeah.
Right?
You know, when Ken came over, he said that we're all community activists by heart, right? And I think that council doesn't technically have to acknowledge as if our duties here are to review the budget and advise on what the commission as a whole thinks about it. But we all do this on a voluntary basis, and we give up our time, and it is our passion to give back. It is a thankless job, just like theirs is. But they also have to recognize that inadvertently we were chosen by the neighborhood associations that picked us, just like they were also elected to the position. And so the only constant here that I would say is Norberto, and we have to make sure that we have that constant communication with him, because the people that we currently have sitting in those positions will go, and we're going to have another council person and then we have to continuously be rebuilding. And our terms only last 4 years, so hopefully the next person that comes in, if I'm replaced, which is a possibility, you know, we want to make sure that it makes it easier for the city and be a real resource. And that's really what my point was earlier, is that they don't see us as a resource, and I think most of us have that feeling that we are not seen as a resource, and that they don't know what we can do. And not only do they not know what we can do, but even our neighborhoods, unless they're participating in the neighborhood associations, know that we even exist. And we have to also take ownership on that, and we have to make sure that we start walking and going to all the different community events and let them know. Because it's not like all on them, you know, I'm gonna be the devil's advocate, it's also our responsibility. We are not getting paid for this, we're not technically the public figures, we're not responding for the whole community, but we are, in a sense, we were elected to do that, so we have to take the ownership and walk and get to know our neighbors and really let them know that we are a big part of the city and we could be an asset and voice their opinions with council.
Okay, very good. We're gonna take one more comment, and then we have a round of questions about getting additional feedback. Yes?
To address a little bit more with Olivia, with being the chair of Voice of the Community, I found it very difficult to actually get the word out after we had something in place. And I was instructed that we needed a bylaw to govern how we put out this information. But the terrible part is that I found that out 2 months ago, and we've been doing this all along. And it was like we were spinning our wheels, gathering information, calculating it, but there was nobody that volunteered the right information because we didn't ask the right question. And I think that's frustrating to most of us that deal, because we're not going to know the right question. But we want you to be a little bit knowing and share maybe your insight on a direction that we could maybe grasp a little bit better and then push it out there with that knowledge. But with no knowledge and I don't ask the right question, that means that you don't give me an answer, it's not working.
Last question of the day as we move towards wrap-up. Should staff and the commission collect feedback from the public about today's recommendation? And then if the answer, if there's a sense of wanting to do that, how? What's the mechanism for doing that? What does that look like? So what do you think? Is it worthwhile to get additional community input on the recommendations?
You do a straw poll, or?
Yeah, I don't know. We're not clear what that looks like. It could look like a lot of different things. Go ahead.
My 2 cents is, I think we accomplished a lot today. I think we're here for a reason. I don't think we need to extend the process by getting community support for our input.
Good?
Okay.
No, I would agree with that. I think we represent a lot of neighborhood associations, the voice, we've heard that over and over again.
So I
think it's fine.
I guess the question I would have, did you get from us what you think you need?
Yeah, from this group, there's no doubt, what we need, but I think the other question is, do we go out to other members of other neighborhood associations to get feedback as well? I mean, I think that's a directive, though.
It's the very last one. I would also suggest that staff may want to consider soliciting feedback from members of the public who have an interest in the commission, such as neighborhood leaders or participants in neighborhood associations. So it's hard, is that staff do this?
Well, I think we'll be asked, it's a suggestion, but we'll be asked if we did or did not,
Okay.
and why not. And if we say the commission just thought if they represented well enough, that we may not.
Okay, go ahead.
Feel
Yeah,
okay for
this,
them.
so the answer is we did consider it, and the answer is no, thank you. So it gets back to, it gets back to analysis by paralysis. We were here to do, and we did. And I think the whole purpose of how we got here was we speak with the voice of the community in this instance. So I think we've checked the done box.
Okay, Olivia, Pete, Nicole, and then me.
So in the interest of being as transparent as possible, I would always encourage the community to give their 2 cents. The only problem that I would see, because their question and the reason that the memo was originally written is because of staffing, and that would cost more of an issue and more money being spent on something that might not be an issue.
Okay.
So when they consider that, I would ask that they understand that if you're questioning us in staffing, then it would be up to the discretion of the council or the rules committee whether they want to spend more money on this when we obviously gave our report.
Okay, very good.
Because I also want to make it open to the public if they do, but it's up to them.
Okay.
again, to go on Mimi's point, I don't think anybody outside this room cares. I don't think they know what our brand is or really care at all. Let me suggest, though, that we could approach the district leadership groups, go to the presidents of that, and maybe this comes through Zoma and just says, hey, listen, you know, this discussion was had, do you have any input? So there's an effort made to reach out and do things. I don't think very many people will respond.
Right.
Respond.
Right. The effort was made, right, you had the opportunity, and then whatever you give is.
Would
whatever
love to
you
have
get.
input,
Yeah.
but nobody's gonna give it.
Okay, Nicole.
So so it's a staffing issue and it's a time issue. I would suggest that someone task the Neighborhoods Commission with creating a structure to get that feedback from the communities and get that feedback and report back by the end of the year. So give it to us as an ad hoc.
When does,
It could go in June.
okay, so it has to go to June.
So it's just something like, yes, we considered it, and they were really passionate that they take that on.
Yeah, but see, I think they're trying not to have influence in the commission on that too.
But bottom line, the memo to me was enough of a referendum on our value, that if we open it up to 1 million people, what's the next 6 months of our work gonna be like?
right.
I don't want, honestly, respectfully, I don't wanna waste to the end of the year doing like heart, blood, and soul work that it takes to do this.
We have like 3 weeks to wrap up.
Ugh.
Well, we wrapped it up
The
today.
agenda to get it.
Okay. So just like,
So I was just gonna suggest then, if we are trying to be efficient, then just add it as an item to the next meeting where we give a handout and the public can speak. And we can let the public know this is your opportunity.
So
And
you
it's
use
done.
that during oral communications in one of your commissions.
Right, public
Yes.
comment, and the only one who might say something is Ed Rath. Go ahead, 2 cents, right?
But we have to give 30 days, right? 30 days
Was there
notice for that?
a comment, question over here?
Yeah, I agree with Pete that, you know, you write up a summary of what happened today and our thoughts, our major thoughts, and then give it to the district leadership groups,
Yeah.
which you could also give it out in our next Neighborhoods Commission meeting as an agenda item so that it's publicly distributed. And then if there's any feedback, people will give us feedback. The ones who want to give us feedback will. I guarantee you that. So I just suggest that.
No, I've already spoken with many of our neighborhoods because Ed Ross is one of the citizens. And a couple of other people that are very active in our D6 and the leadership group.
We have 1
And
minute.
they're for keeping it the way it is.
Okay.
And they probably would all show up to their opinion.
Yeah,
Okay,
they
well,
would,
that's
they would,
actually good.
they would.
That would be great.